Hey mate, can I grab your extension for a sec, buddy?
What's up?
I'm just trying to let people know about ESO, buddy. Have you heard about it?
Yeah, I have.
It is a really great game, bug-free, lag-free. It's just an amazing experience. I'm glad to say a lot has changed. ESO's introduced Proxet meta, which is amazing. It basically means that you come back to the game and just kick ass.
Don't actually have to work for it.
No, you do. You may have to farm a little bit of gear, but you can be pretty dominant in PvP with no skill level. Is that something that would interest you? Really?
Maybe if it was there, actually a playable game.
Alright boys and girls, this video is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. I'm just kidding, it's brought to you by our website. If you haven't checked out mine, Sawman's, Bashman's, Captain Crunch's, and now recently joining us is Nice Gaming, aka Nice Gaming, but hey. Yeah, so there's guides, builds, all cool stuff over there from all 5 of us. So I'll have the link in the description, feel free to check it out. This build guide will be up in about a day or 2, so if you're watching in the future, it should already be over there. Alright, today we're going to discuss 1 bar DK, we're going to discuss different weapon options, different bar layouts and gear sets and all that kind of stuff. And obviously I'm going to show you what I found to work the best, and yeah. So without any frigging around, let's get into it, boys and girls. So, first up, we have Resolving Vigor, basically well-known hot. We're getting a 4k crit heals out of this, sometimes a little bit higher. Just really solid on this build. Then, next up, we have Coagulating Blood. This is just really strong burst heal. On average, I'm seeing like 12k heals out of this thing, so it's really good. Then we have our Breath. Now we're hitting that 6% multiply just on this build when we buffed up. There's not much to say about it. It's an AoE dot, and it's going to help proc our whip. And in some scenarios, you're going to use this as a spammable more than a dot. So just keep that in mind. Next up, we have our whip. Now this is our main source of damage. This is what's going to absolutely rip people's faces off. And whew, does this thing hit hard. I mean like 24k whip hard. People are gonna wake up in the morning with a very sore backside after you whip them fair in their face with this. Now some people probably prefer it from behind, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. And finally is basically you can run a few different things here. This is just a slot, depending on your weapon, depending on how you want to play, this skill is going to change. So if you're running a 2-hander or sword and board, or resto, you're more than likely going to want to run race against time in this slot so you can get your speed buff and snare removal, and obviously you're getting minor force, so it's a great option there. As I said, the main reason why I like bow was it freed up a spot on my bar, and I think Burning Embers is the best here. I have been playing with Flames of Oblivion, and that does hit damn hard, and obviously it's got a bit of range on it, so it's got that. But I think Burning Embers, if you're trying to fight outnumbered, is going to be the better option here. It's not necessarily that great of a heal up on 1 person, but if you can get this up on 2 or 3 people, the healing is still pretty solid. About 3k, 4k a second if you can get it up on 3 people. So it's pretty damn solid, and obviously the damage from it on this setup is really crazy. Now something else to mention there, you can play with the other whip morph, and you can run Choking Talons here and go that way. Personally, I prefer this whip because it just smacks so damn hard and is so fun to just basically one-shot people with whip. That's just something to consider there, and in all honesty, play around with this slot, chuck different things in there, chuck different sets in there, just play with it, try different things. You might find something that you really enjoy and really like. Let's get into the gear. So I played around with some different gear setups, but I think what I've settled on is this. And we're running Bloodspawn, Rallying Cry, Potatoes, and of course Oakensoul. I honestly feel at the moment it's so hard without Rallying Cry. And obviously we have no problem keeping it up on this build because we got nearly 50% crit chance. And yeah, crit damage is so out of control, and unfortunately Inpen's just not really worth running. It's such a weak trait, and I wish it was like 250. That's probably where it realistically needs to be, and I'm pretty sure that's what it used to be, but it at least needs to be 200. I am running a couple in pen, but that's not really out of choice. My go-to here is well fitted, and then we are running one piece trainee. So this is our heavy legs, and we are running reinforced. The only thing I do not like about this setup is the fact that we are in 4 light. I would much prefer to be in medium, but obviously the mag recovery and the crit chance isn't necessarily that bad, and the reduced sprint and the snare, it's not the end of the day. On our jewelry, we are running 2 infused, 1 swift. Now, feel free to play around with these as well. Like, depending on your playstyle, please keep this in mind. Don't copy builds straight out. It's fine to watch build videos, but customize them. Change traits, change CP, change food, play around with different skills. Expand your knowledge, basically, instead of just copying someone else's build straight out. Here, well, I'm running 2 infused, 1 swift, but you might love speed and love to be a real quick player, so you might run all swift. Or you might not care about speed at all, so you run all infused. And then, as I said, on our weapon, we are running the bow, and I am running precise. Now, I probably want Nern here, but I don't have the transmutes to make it. That being said, I don't know, seeing that we got so much crit damage in our build, precise might actually make some sense here. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering, why the hell am I not running decisive? We tested this, and basically it was making my my corrosive come back up about 3 seconds faster. And I don't know, to me, that's not worth it. But to you, if, 3 seconds faster on your corrosive is worth it to you, then go decisive. Now, sometimes it was a little bit more, other times it was a little bit less. That was just the average that we found. And we did do quite a bit of testing on it to try and get rid of, any variables, because it is a percentage. My go-to here will either be precise or Nern. I haven't had a chance to test with Nern. And then obviously, if you can afford it, running try and chance on all the pieces, but at the very least try and get try and chance on your 3 large pieces. They are your head, chest, and legs. Alright, that's the gear. There's not really much more to say about it, I don't think. So let's jump into our CP and other little things that I found that might be important to get the most out of this build. Alright, let's discuss our stats. Now, the sheet itself and the numbers don't really explain mostly what's going on in this build, so I'll try and explain as we go. But our recoveries are quite high, and the reason behind that is the fact that we do have high uptime on corrosive, but it's not 100%. So you can find yourself 5 to 10 seconds where you're out of corrosive, but you've got 10, 15 people on you, and you need to hit coagulating blood a lot, you need to dodge roll a lot, block, and so on. So that's why our recovery is a lot higher. Obviously, if you went sugar skulls, this would be down quite a bit, and you would have more extra stats. But that's why our recovery is so high. Then we're sitting at 22k max magic, 32k health, and then 17k stam. Normally I'm running around 31k. I wouldn't recommend going over around that 30k area, because obviously higher your health is, higher the cap on corrosive, the incoming damage you're going to take. Then we're sitting at 5.5k weapon damage, fully buffed, we're just over 6k. Not super high, but we don't need it because most of our damage is coming from crit. We have 115% crit damage on this build with nearly 50% crit chance. So, and then obviously we've got unlimited pen because of corrosive. So there's all our damage. I think we've tried higher weapon damage on this build, and of course you do hit harder, but I think this is kind of the sweet spot between having some survivability and, you know, being able to hit like a truck. So as I said, 46% crit, so almost 50%. Unlimited pen when we're in corrosive, and then our resistances are 18k physical and 21.5k spell. We are reasonably squishy out of corrosive, so just keep that in mind when you're playing this build, not to get caught out in the mindset that you're still really tanky when not in corrosive. That's kind of 90% of the reason I die, is I'm kind of forget my corrosive's gone down or not paying attention. That being said, our hots are really solid, so we are reasonably tanky. I wouldn't say we're super squishy, and I wouldn't say we're as squishy as what those resistances would lead you to believe. Of course, we do have major protection on top of that. And then solid amount of crit resist. We're basically mitigating the base crit multiplier from the game. So the base 50%, we're basically mitigating it. So if a player has no other crit damage multipliers and they crit on us, it's basically going to hit like a normal hit. I think it's really important this patch to have decent crit. Unfortunately, I still don't think in pen's that viable realistically. I think Rallying Cry is a must have. They're the stats. As I said, we're sitting about 110% crit damage, so getting close to that cap. And as I said, our crits hit like absolute. Alright, let's get CP out of the way. And once again, I want to stress to you guys that this stuff is things that you guys should be customizing. But for our red CP, or blue CP should I say, we're running backstabbing, fighting finesse, focused mending, and acute overload. So basically, the defensive and offensive CP were nerfed last patch, so made them a lot less useful. And that's why we're running the crit damage, along with, you know, we have high crit chance. It just makes sense in this build. We're getting a lot of juicy crits in here, and our CP is part of the way. And then they didn't nerf the healing CP, so we're still getting 10% out of that. And then acute overload is just, it's very situational. Do keep that in mind. The range on it is what limits it. I really wish they would make it like 7k and extend the range by even another meter would make a huge difference. But it's so much fun. You'll be in fights where, you know, you've put your dots up, you're taking too much pressure, you go defense, and maybe your Flames of Oblivion procs kills one and another two die, and you're just sitting there going, okay, well, I didn't mean to kill anyone there, but cool. So it is fun. And then obviously you've got the bomb potential to, you know, kill one and see a lot die. But do keep in mind it is very situational. Then in our red tree, we're running Slippery. Now we tested this in a previous video and we're getting about 400 stam recovery out of this. That's about what it equates to when you take the cost of CC break and then divide it by the time and rah. So yeah, about 400 stam recovery, solid recovery CP there. Survival Instincts, another go-to must-have. Speed CP, once again, another go-to. I run these two on all my builds. The other two I play around all the time. And then we're running Sustained by Suffering. But feel free to play around with different CP, see how you like it, see what works for you. Now food, you've got a few options here. If you don't need a lot of sustain, you run lower sustain, you can run Sugar Skulls here. Now we are not running Vamp on this build. We dropped Vamp and I've been enjoying it primarily because of DKs at the moment. I think it's just not worth it. And secondly, just the sustain. And yeah, I don't know. It was time for a change, so we decided to not go Vamp. But Sugar Skulls, if you don't need the resources, if you want to have a lot of both resources and feeling very rich, then obviously you want to run Smoke Bear. And then somewhere in the middle is your max health, max magic, and mag recovery food. Just depends on your needs and obviously your wallet. That leads into our potions. Now, ideally on this build, you want minor heroes and pots. They are super expensive, so what I do recommend is getting a tripod, and then in fights where you need that extra, a bit more, you can use your minor heroes and pots. But say if you're zerging someone down, you don't need it, you can just use the tripod. That leads us into, a lot of people may be wondering, what's our uptime on corrosive? We're looking at about 70 to 80%. Now you can get that a little bit higher by doing decisive, so there's that. For me, 70 to 80% is fine. You will just have to get used to playing very defensively when you're outside of corrosive, because you will get trapped in thinking that you're really tanky, and then you'll get out of corrosive and you're not very tanky and you get destroyed. So keep that in mind, that you are very squishy outside of corrosive and to play very defensively. I think last up is our Munderstone, and we're running crit damage, crit healing. This is just another thing that's helping our survivability through healing, and obviously our damage. Our damage is I'll calculate our crit damage and have it on screen right now, but it's definitely close to cap. But yeah, boys and girls, if you are watching this in the near future, so about 2 days time, as I said in the intro, this will be up on our website, Gorilla HQ. It's a fun time over there. There's a lot of builds from myself, Sawman, Captain Crunch, Fragman, and also Nix Gaming. So yeah, fun time. I'll have that linked in the description. And yeah, as I said, they'll be up in the next 2 days. That's about it, guys, I think. So we'll wrap this up. If you have any questions, feel free to stop by my Twitch channel and ask me over there, or join our Discord, or simply leave a comment in the comment section. As always, I love you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.